You're live.
Good evening, I'm Ron St. Jean, and welcome to the 2024 Strafford County District 4 and 18 State Rep Candidate Forum, possibly the first ever, but definitely the first in a long time. This is a citizen-produced event. Connor McIver, John Cafaso, and I wanted to give the candidates an opportunity to interact with voters throughout the districts and to give voters a chance to see who they might be voting for. During the September primary, a lot of voters were confused by having candidates from two House districts on the ballot. To explain that situation simply, in District 4, Barrington and Strafford share 3 state reps, and in District 18, Barrington, Strafford, Middleton, and New Durham share 1 state rep. So in Barrington and Strafford, we'll have 8 candidates for 4 state rep positions. I hope I got that right. All right, good. We'll start by allowing each candidate 2 minutes to talk about why they are running. After that, we'll take questions from the audience in person and online. Hopefully there's some online. And each candidate will have 1 minute for their answer. We're figuring that'll at least allow us to have 10 questions or so. If we don't have any additional people show up, we might go a little longer, but that's kind of the rough guideline. We'll start with no, we won't start with that one. They're not here. We'll start with District 4. There's Kurt Wuelper. Okay, there's a seat with your name on it up there. We'll start with District 4 Democratic candidate Heath Howard, a Democrat.
Thank you, Ron. I really appreciate the introduction. And I just
2 minutes.
And I just wanted to say thank you all for spending your Thursday evening with us. It really means a lot. I'm running for office as a freshman state representative running for re-election. My name's Heath Howard. I'm a lifelong resident of Strafford and Barrington. I grew up there. I went to school there. I'm a student at UNH right now. I'm getting my history degree. And I got involved in politics because when I was 16 years old, I broke my back. I had an L4 burst fracture. I had 4 rods and 8 screws put in. And I remember my mom, she spent every single one of her sick days, every single one of her vacation days with me in the hospital. And it's something where she was an incredible advocate for me. And it's something where other people need to have that opportunity. And that's why I've been advocating for things like paid family leave so that we can make sure that people have the highest access to quality care. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, Republican candidate from District 4, Len Turcotte.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to use my 2 minutes just to give you a little bit of my background. I'm currently in my 4th term running or as one of your representatives here in District 4 now. I served 2 terms before, took 2 years off, and then I came back for the last 2 terms. My first 2 terms, I served on the Labor Committee. When I came back into the House, I served on Labor Committee last term. I also served on Finance and on redistricting. I also served as in the majority office as a senior advisor. My professional background, I'm a 40-year airline pilot with American Airlines. I've been a captain there for 35 of those years, flying internationally now, 787s, worldwide, China, Deep South America, and as far east as next month going to Delhi, India for the first time. Also, as my time at American Airlines, I worked for the Pilots Association there for about 8 years. It's a union right now of 16,000 members. I served as a negotiator on the one of 5 members of the negotiating committee, served on several as chairman at the national level down in Dallas. I also was one of 16 board of directors for the pilots union, and I was also the chairman of the Boston domicile, which was 550 pilots, just happened to be during the time of 9/11. My family background, born and raised in New Hampshire, been here my whole life, lived here pretty much the whole life. I have lived in Barrington now for 34 years, been married to my wife, Deborah, for 33. And I have 2 grown children aged 30 and 26.
Okay, thank you, Len. Next up, District 4 Democratic candidate Cassandra Levesque.
Hello, my name is Cassandra Levesque. I have lived in Barrington since I was 6 months old. I am running for my 4th term. I have served on the Children and Family Law Committee. I started in politics by trying to raise the age of marriage in New Hampshire from 13 for girls and 14 for boys to 18. I have tried many years and just recently got it passed to 18. I also come from a family of veterans. Both my dad, uncles, grandfather have all served, and we all believe that everybody deserves respect, integrity, and to have the best life that they can live. And I want to make sure that all of our constituents get that respect in the best way of life that they can have, in both in the beginning of life and at the end of life. I have cared for my grandmother since I could remember, all the way up until she passed away in 2019. And I hope that we can serve our communities the best way possible. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cassie. Next, District 4 Republican candidate Kurt Wuelper.
Thank you. Thank you. Am I on? I hope. Okay. There. Anyway, so I am Kurt Wuelper. Like a lot of us, at least some of us. I was born and raised in New Hampshire, educated in public school in Belmont, graduated from the University of New Hampshire. In between times, I had the opportunity well, I graduated from high school in 1965, which was a troublesome time in our country, and it turns out it was a turning point for our country. And so I served in Vietnam for 19 months. But out of the service, came back, graduated from UNH. Times were tough. Got a job at the Navy Yard as an apprentice after I had my 4-year degree. Worked there for 34 and a half years, then retired. And I retired to go into politics. Not that I hadn't been in politics a little bit before, but as a federal employee, there were a lot of things that I couldn't do. So I avoided those. But I did that because when I was in school, grade school, high school, we learned important things. Things like the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the structure of our government. And that really stuck with me when I took the oath of office to go to Vietnam. It reinforced that. And I see our country, I saw then, that was 19, whatever this is, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, our country going in the wrong direction.
10 seconds, Kurt.
And so I went and got into office to fix that, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. Next up, District 4 Democratic candidate Adam Mulholland.
Hi, excuse me. Good evening, everybody. I'm Adam Mulholland. I live here in Barrington. I live down off of Beauty Hill with my wife and my 4 children. I'm a father of 5. I have 1 child in Georgia going to university down there. I moved here about 6.5 years ago, right before COVID hit. I came from the Philippines via South Korea. I retired from the U.S. Air Force back in 2017. My wife is an immigrant, U.S. citizen now. She's from the Philippines along with my youngest son. And we moved here looking for a good future for our children, a safe place to raise them, a place to get a good education, and hopefully good careers. So that way I can eventually become a grandfather. That would be very nice. During my service, I served all around the world. I did a year in Saudi Arabia. I did 8 years in South Korea. I was on active duty the entire time. I've served underneath OIF, OEF, Afghanistan invasion, Iraq invasion. I was part of a lot of the supply forces, but I have not served personally over in Afghanistan or Iraq. My favorite place for the Air Force was South Korea. So we came here. I pushed my kids through Barrington's school system. That's the elementary school, the middle school, and then I pushed 2 through Dover, and we have 2 graduates from UNH. They're now in the workforce. They support our community. And I'm very proud of what we've accomplished in that 6.5 years here in Barrington. This community has been very good to us. And I wanted to have another opportunity to serve my country. And now I have another opportunity to serve my community. So I'm hoping to go to Concord so I can pass good legislation that will bolster our community and that you can be proud of. During my time in the service, my education background, I have a
10 seconds,
bachelor's in visual comm, 3 associate degrees, and I have several accomplishments. I'm sure we'll get to that later. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, District 18, Republican candidate Mike Harrington.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity for doing this. I appreciate it. It's hard to get in touch with people a lot, especially in the rural districts. My name is Mike Harrington. I've lived in Strafford for over 40 years. Been married to my wife for 47, and we have 2 adult children and a black lab who goes hiking with me all the time, and you'll probably see him at the polls. He's my best vote getter, I think. I've been, I have a degree in nuclear engineering. I worked for the Navy as a civilian engineer, and then went on to working for commercial power, nuclear power plant, spent 20 years at sea, worked most of that as the procurement engineering supervisor. After leaving there, I was appointed Public Utilities Commissioner, and I spent 10 years at the commission in a couple of different positions, kind of an odd quirk. I was the only person in New Hampshire history to serve 2 non-concurrent terms as Public Utilities Commissioner. I've been in the House now 6 terms, all but one of those was on science, technology, and energy, as you would expect. That's sort of my field of expertise. So I've been working on different things with energy. I was a member of the recent Nuclear Commission, trying to look at the possibilities of new advanced reactors in New Hampshire. I'm also on the Offshore Wind Commission for the state of New Hampshire. Why am I running? Because I've been to Concord. I see what happens there a lot. And, you know, some things are good, some things aren't so good. But one thing that's changed over the time I've been there for the worse, and this is one of the biggest things I'll try to fight, and that's the special interest groups. Many special interest groups. We've had groups that were down there. There was a particular wood burning plant that's now gone bankrupt, but they only made money because of the subsidies they were receiving from the ratepayers. And they use that money to hire lobbyists to go down and lobby for additional ratepayer subsidies. And that's the type of thing I want to block. I don't think we should be paying to have somebody lobby against us. So thanks again for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. And District 18, Democratic candidate Kimberly McGlinchey.
All right, good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for having us here tonight. I'm looking forward to sharing with you my experience and qualifications and why I believe I will make a great representative for House Seat 18 here in the great county of Strafford County. So let me just start with this. I have a problem. You see, I have also lived in Strafford County my whole life. Graduated from Spalding High School, went on to Plymouth State College, where I received a biology degree and entered the field of education. As I entered the field of education and spent numerous hours in the classroom, I began to realize the difference in socioeconomic outcomes. And that drove my passion to attain 2 more masters from the University of New Hampshire and a PhD in leadership and policy in education. My problem, you see, is this. I see New Hampshire moving in the wrong direction and stagnating in some issues that are extremely important to us, our livelihood, and who we are as Granite Staters. As a 25-year public educator, I've spent many hours not only in the classroom, but researching the disparities and inequities. It is clear, even before the Claremont decision, that we are not funding public education in an equitable manner, and that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And we see it every single day. I spent 16 years working in Portsmouth Public School District. Let me tell you, the lived experience of a child in Portsmouth School District is far different than the inner city school I worked in Manchester, New Hampshire, as well as the rural district I am currently working in. And yet, the rural district pays a higher tax rate for their local education tax.
10 seconds,
And
Kimberly.
I am also extremely concerned about climate change. I started studying that in 1983. When we said it was on our doorstep, it is currently walked into our house and is in our kitchen making a sandwich. It hurts our water quality. It hurts our health. It hurts our infrastructure. It hurts our winter sports, and it hurts a slew of other things that we can talk about later. I'm proud to be here, and I thank you all for coming out tonight.
Thank you. Now you've met everybody, and since we have limited time, questioners should avoid lengthy statements, critiques, or endorsements and state their questions concisely, allowing time for the candidates to answer. We're going to give everybody a minute, and we're going to let everybody take a stab at every question that comes up. You don't have to answer them if you don't want to, but I feel everybody should have the opportunity. So do we have any questions waiting to be asked? Matt, go to the podium and make sure the green light is on. If not, push the little black button. I think so.
Green. Okay, anybody can answer this question, but it's primarily directed towards the Republican contingent, and I'd be interested in everybody's views. And the subject, as some of you who normally will know, is guns. And I'm passionate about that, particularly here in Barrington. So given that New Hampshire has 141 gun deaths every year on average, and given that New Hampshire's rate of increased gun violence is 57% year over year, and nationally it's only 36%, I'd like to know why Republicans, when asked about this, they will lapse into the notion of this is a mental health problem. It's not guns don't kill people, people kill people. And consequently, that's the go-to. It's never about the guns. However, the fact of the matter is that when we have a red flag law in front of the House, that gets voted down. When we have an opportunity to take that group of people who have mental illness and tell the feds about it so they don't issue a gun permit, that gets voted down.
Hey, Matt,
so
state a question so we can get on to
I'm getting there right now. And I'd like to know, how do you reconcile those views? Voting against those laws, but still having the reality of 141 people dying every year.
Okay, we'll start with Mike Harrington.
Sure. First of all, I agree that obviously one gun death is too many, but it is a mental health issue because in New Hampshire, over 75% of the handgun deaths are suicides. And that's a horrible thing, but I don't want my constitutional rights taken away because someone has a mental disease someplace else. I'm a member of what's called Walk the Talk, which is an organization of gun instructors who are trying to work on this. I'm also a certified to teach for the class required by Massachusetts to get a permit. And I just took a one-day class from the Massachusetts State Police on how to prevent gun suicides. And I think that's where we should be looking at. New Hampshire, though the the death rate is too high, is still one of the safest states in the country. And if you look across the country at gun laws, there's really no consistency. You can have a state like California who has very restrictive gun laws, who has some of the most unsafe, most violent counties in the country. And you can look at other places like New Hampshire, who has, I think, good gun laws, and where our violent crime rate and gun rate is a lot lower. So
okay, time's up. Yep, thank you. Cassandra Levesque.
I think I agree that one death is too many. I think that we need a lot of mental health help out there. I also think that we need to have a 3D waiting period so that way it does prevent those suicides and help the people get the help that they need. I don't think that restricting gun access is helpful for people that do want to own a gun and know how to use it safely. I think we need common sense gun legislation that everybody can agree on, both gun owners and people that want safe gun laws in general.
Thank you. Len?
Sure. Pretty much what Mike said, I think, covers a lot of it. I'm going to suggest also, beyond the fact that we have some of the safest overall, we are one of the safest states in our country consistently. Crime as a whole is up everywhere. I spent a year or 9 months last year on a federal grand jury, and I can tell you the influence of crime, illegals operating in our state, and the drugs that are being brought up all go hand in hand. I heard something about the red flag laws. We did have a bill come through our House last year. It's not as simple as just saying, why are you for or opposed to red flag laws?
10 seconds,
The,
Len.
the legislation that comes before us is very, very detailed, and it's just not simply a yay or nay. You got to understand the language.
Thank you. Kimberly.
So I'd like to just chime in from the educator perspective. As you know, school shootings are up quite a bit in this country. And, you know, they happen in our own backyard in Connecticut, which is not too far from us. And then we had the incident in Maine, not in a school, but in a very public area. I do believe that we need common sense gun legislation. We need to consider mental health. We need to consider the red flag laws. And we need to protect our most vulnerable, young children who may have access to guns and act, you know, maybe erratically and not really know what the implications of what they're doing are doing. So again, I support common sense gun legislation. I do not want to take the guns away from people who use them and recreate with them and do what they do, but we need to protect the vulnerable.
Thank you. Kurt.
Excuse me, Ms. Wuelper, just press the button to be green. That ring, yep, there you go. Up on the bottom of the screen. You were muted, that's all. You all have control of mute.
Well, I thought I did. All right. So I would have supported the red flag laws, except they were unconstitutional in the sense that they deny people their constitutional rights. We have legal process to have people who are dangerous to themselves and others have their guns confiscated or taken away. And it needs to be followed because those people they have the same rights that we all do. As far as the whole business of why the United States is unique in the gun violence area, in my understanding, right? We're the only ones that has mass shootings, but they're everywhere, which tells me that this is not a simple thing like gun laws.
10 seconds, Kurt.
It's more of a societal problem, and that's part of why I think we need to more rigorously defend the due process rights of the people.
Adam.
Guns are such a hot topic, right? We're the safest state until you're not. Nobody expected Lewiston up in Maine too long ago, right? Guy came out, did some horrible things. And it's a tough conversation in our country. We have more guns than we have people. You can 3D print a gun. You can do a lot of things in one night and go out and destroy some lives. I never want to take anybody's guns. I believe in the Second Amendment. I have no issues using weapons, going to the firing range. I understand, but I'm highly trained with them. Like a lot of people are, law enforcement, military, and people with those kind of backgrounds. I think it's important that we look at the mental stability of people. We clearly need more mental health opportunities here in the state. I think we do need common sense gun law. I think waiting periods are reasonable. I think background checks are reasonable.
10 seconds.
I've lost a lot of friends to gun suicide. They didn't have to have that access. Just taking those guns just temporarily could have saved a lot of lives. I would consider some legislation. I would have to read what comes before me before I would vote on something, but I do believe in the Second Amendment. I do believe that people have the right to bear arms.
Okay, thank you. And Heath?
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on something that Representative Turcotte said. I mean, it is a known fact that crime is going down across the country, and it is going down. And it's something where when we're considering legislation around this topic, I mean, we're not looking at crime, we're looking at mental health issues. We're talking about suicides and mass shootings. I mean, when we're talking about these specific issues and we're saying, hey, we need to have background checks and waiting periods so that we can actually make sure that we can follow through on those background checks, and then making sure that we can actually hold the people who are trying to do bad things accountable before they can actually do something. I mean, I think that we're in a situation right now where we can be we can look at something that would be a lot better than the current situation.
10 seconds.
And
Heath.
when we have a situation like what happened up in Lewiston, it's not necessarily about crime, it's about mental health, like you said. Thank you.
Thank you. You have more questions here? How do people connect online?
If you're participating online and you'd like to ask a question, you can raise your hand and we'll get you in the queue and just wait to be called on by the moderator. Just remember, you'll have to unmute yourself once the moderator calls on you. Just queue right up.
Go ahead, Jack.
Hi, Jack Gale, Barrington. Since there's always polls done, at least in New Hampshire, every 4 years, usually in the winter, as you know, Pew Research conducted a poll, and 66% of New Hampshire residents wanted abortion to be legal in all or most cases. This question will be all of you, but as incumbents, some of you have voted on a multitude. It seems to be 3, 4, 5 bills every year addressing this from different angles. But in the end, the people of New Hampshire, consistent with the rest of the nation, believe that some of this right should exist. I guess I'd like to know is what you would do to preserve this right that New Hampshire residents have expressed as their desire for this.
Okay, we'll start with Cassie Levesque.
Yeah, I've always said that I support a person's right to choose their own healthcare decisions and not involve politics, politicians, the government in general. I believe that a politician shouldn't be in with my doctor deciding if I should get the treatment that I need. I don't think anybody wants that. I think the right to privacy of their own healthcare decisions is most important. I've always been on the right to choose. And I think that every woman, every man should have the right to choose when it comes to those things. And we should listen to the 66% of people that want this and have spoke up and said that we want this and we need this. And we've seen in years in history of what happens when we don't have it.
Okay,
We
time's
see
up.
the deaths.
Cassie, I'm sorry. Len Turcotte.
You know, I wish we actually had a little bit more than a minute on this because this is an issue that I would really like to get into in detail, and it would take me probably 3 or 4 minutes to talk about it. Honestly, to 1 minute on this issue is just not enough. So if somebody wants, if we want to, maybe at the end when we run out of questions, I would love to talk about this in detail.
Kimberly.
So I definitely agree with Cassie. A woman's right to choose or to be part of a conversation with their healthcare provider when it comes down to making decisions is really not a public issue. It is not a public issue for many issues that revolve around healthcare issues. So why is it an issue when it comes to a woman's right to get the right healthcare and to be able to work with her medical provider to make a decision that's right for her and her family? As Cassie mentioned, prior to the Roe v. Wade we had good health care prior to that in terms of abortion, working with medical providers. By overturning Roe v. Wade, you are not changing the fact that people will get abortions. What you're changing is their opportunity to have safe health care in order to make good, educated decisions about their body and their future. And so we have no business being in healthcare. That is not our expertise.
Thank you. Kurt Wuelper.
So I agree with the Supreme Court of the United States when they issued Roe versus Wade, to the extent they said if we knew what the object of the abortion was and that it was a human being, it would already be protected by the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. Consequently, there can be no such thing as the constitutional right to abort because we do know what it is. So That's the foundation. It's a human being. It deserves legal protection according to our Constitution, and it had that for the vast bulk of our history.
Okay, Adam?
I have never met a woman that was excited or happy to go down and get an abortion. I have 3 daughters. I have plenty of nieces, plenty of other women in my life. I would never vote to restrict abortion. It is strictly between a woman and her doctor. Politics has no bearing on it. I don't support reductions in wait times, 6 weeks, 20 weeks, 24 weeks. I don't care. No exceptions. A woman should be able to take control of her health and be able to do that with her doctor without any consequences whatsoever. It's a hard enough decision anyway to terminate a life. As a father of 5, I understand. It would kill me if I would have lost even one. That's personal choice. Every family should be able to make their own choice along with their medical team. No politicians involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Heath?
Thank you. I just want to say, I mean, I've supported a woman's right to choose every single time that I've voted in the New Hampshire House. It's something where I don't think that I should be the one making this decision. It's something where it should be between a healthcare provider and the person receiving that care. I think that we do need to increase education and making sure that we have age-appropriate education in schools so that people understand what is going on when they are getting involved in a relationship, when they are potentially planning a pregnancy, or before they get an abortion. It's something where we want to try to reduce those types of events through education. Thank you.
Yeah, first of all, I have to disagree with the question that was, the person posed a question saying that 60-something% of the people are in favor of late-term abortions, no restrictions whatsoever. Every poll that I have seen, that's what he said. Well, that's what I heard anyways. Every poll that I've had says the overwhelming majority of people in New Hampshire want restrictions on late-term abortions. Our law says after 20, well, then I'm giving my opinion, okay? So can you please let me speak?
Let the candidate have their time.
So I'll start again. I think most people are opposed to late-term abortions. Our law in New Hampshire says after 24 weeks, you can't have an abortion unless the life of the mother is at stake or there's a major complication to the baby. I voted in favor of that law and I support it. I think that this concept that abortion is a right is not correct. I go along with the Dobbs decision, which overturned Roe v. Wade, which I think was the worst decision since Plessy versus Ferguson.
Okay, time's up.
Okay, so.
Okay, I get a feeling we'll revisit this question at some point. All right, you can be next.
Okay.
Push the little black button.
Okay. My name is Jody Hamilton. I'm from Strafford. When I think of the numerous political issues, lots of them keep me awake at night. And also because of my age, I can't sleep anyway. But so for the people that oppose abortion in New Hampshire, how would you change the law? And if you completely oppose abortion at any time, would you be in favor of introducing a bill that would require fathers to pay child support from the time of conception?
Okay, thank you. Len, you're up first.
I really would like to talk about this issue in detail. I can't do it in little 1-minute sound bites.
Yeah,
And I also expected to come to the forum to be able to speak in a little bit more detail than sound bites. I don't operate in little 10-second sound bites. As I said, if you want to argue with me from the audience, I'd be happy to talk with you after about this. I would like to spend, if I could have at the end, 4 or 5 minutes to talk to you about this. I would love to be able to do that.
Well, everybody will get 2-minute closings.
What's that?
Everybody will get a 2-minute closing, so you can
Okay.
prepare that.
I'll give it a shot in 2 minutes.
All right. All right. Thank you. You know, we just figured with 7 candidates here, if everybody gets a minute, we can get maybe 7 or 8 questions in. If we go longer than that, we're only going to get 3 or 4. So we kind of had to go with that forum. Okay, Kimberly, same questions.
You might need to repeat the question. I'm sorry. I remember the second part, but the first part was in relationship to,
How you would change the law if you were against the current legal.
okay, so I am not against the current way we have the law written here in New Hampshire. I feel it is fair. I feel it respects both the women's health and the healthcare provider to make good decisions. I see no reason to change it, and it sounds like 66% of the people in the state do not want to change it either. And so I would fight not to change that.
Okay, Kurt Wuelper.
So if I had my druthers, abortion would be illegal. But there's good medical testimony before the Senate and others that there is never a reason to do an abortion for medical reasons, because any treatment of the mother for her benefit that results in the death of the child is not an abortion. So I would like to join the rest of the civilized world and go to, say, 12 weeks, which is more or less standard in Europe, but there are many countries that have much stiffer laws than that. But 12 weeks seems to be like the general consensus across the Western civilization.
Did you want to answer the second part?
Yes,
Second part of it.
yes, I would support such a law.
To make child support from?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I really think the failure of fathers is a big reason why we have most of our abortions is because women don't get any support. They should.
Okay, thank you. Adam?
I would support a full repeal of the 24-week waiting period. I think, again, this is an issue between a woman and her doctor. I don't think anybody takes this very lightly. So to me, any waiting period, a lot of women don't even know they're pregnant in the first 6, 12 weeks. My niece just gave birth to my first great nephew, and she thought she was 5 months along. She wasn't. She gave birth. She was actually 7.5 months along. And I just think that it's harmful. I think it doesn't help. I do not believe that it's a baby until it's born. It is a clump of cells until then. I think paternity is a little bit challenging in some cases to be able to confirm that a father is the baby's father. In fact, I think that there would have to be ways to prove that that is their child, to mandate any kind of child support. But it's not so much child support in my world. It would be just support, make sure the mothers have what they need, food, insurance, anything that they need for prenatal care, all of that. Thank you.
Okay, Heath?
I'll just wave.
Okay, Mike Harrington.
I support the law the way it is, so I don't push for any changes. So I do think it's ironic that all of my Democratic friends here keep saying it's between a doctor and a woman and a doctor only, and the government shouldn't be involved. Yet every other aspect of healthcare, they want the government not only involved but making decisions for everybody.
Okay, thank you. I would ask the audience to wait till voting time to give your responses to what our people say. All right, Cassie.
I have to agree with Adam. I think that it is up to the woman to decide, her own health care. I don't think a 24-week waiting period is right. I think that, a woman can decide if they are ready or not to have a family, if they want to have a family at all. Because some women can't have a family or they don't want a family and their body is just in so much pain due to either PCOS, endometriosis, whatever, and they just don't want kids and they also don't want to live with the pain anymore. So they have a hysterectomy, things like that. I think that any choice taken away from anybody is not right. And I work on the Children and Family Law Committee, so child support is kind of what I deal with a lot. And I think that deciding that is definitely a difficult topic, especially how early on. But I think trying to discuss that would definitely be helpful to see where we
Time's
can
up,
go.
Cassie. All right, thank you. I believe we have a remote.
Frank.
Frank, okay.
Hey, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. I've been driving for 11 hours. I was really hoping to be there in person, but I really appreciate Connor and Ron putting this on for those of us that couldn't make it in person. So I raised my hand initially to ask a different question, but based on the last round of answering, I have a very, very simple yes or no answer I would like from every one of the candidates. A woman at 39 weeks and 6 days pregnant walks into an abortion clinic and wants an abortion. Should she be able to kill that baby? This is specifically directed towards Adam, who just said, until the baby comes out, it's a clump of cells. I just want a yes or no. At 39 weeks and 6 days, can that woman kill her baby? Yes or no? Thank you.
Okay, well, I will, if people want to speak a little more than just a yes or no, you're welcome to do that. And we start with Kimberly.
No, I would not support 39 weeks. No way.
Okay, Kurt.
No, I would not support 39 weeks. And the reason is the same reason. The reason that people don't support late-term abortion is because it looks like a baby. It is that same human being at the time that it's conceived. We know that from DNA. And consequently, I can't support abortion anytime. But remember, abortion is only the intentional killing of the child without respect to the health of the mother.
Okay, Adam.
If there's a complication at 39 weeks and 6 days, I expect the doctor to be able to make that call. That's what we send them to medical school for. I trust my hospital workers, my doctors, my nurses, everybody that's involved. There's not one person that would wait until that long before they said, let's just get rid of this thing. That doesn't make any sense to me. If you're in that position already, things have already gone sideways. I'm sorry?
That should have been an easy no. That's evil and disgusting. Thank you for clarifying, though, Adam.
Same to you, sir. Thank you.
Heath.
Thank you. Yeah, it depends on the case-by-case situation when we're looking at the individual. I mean, again, when somebody is considering an abortion that late in a pregnancy, it is medical related. It is not optional. It is not them choosing to do that. It's something where most of these people, they've chosen a name, they have a room, they have a crib. It's something where they have set up themselves for a life with a child. And it's something where if they have to go and get that procedure because it's going to save their life, then I think that they need to do that. But again, it's not optional.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
Yeah, I guess I would say that under our existing law, that would be legal only if the life of the mother was in jeopardy, and I would support that. So I would have to say under that circumstance and that circumstance only, would I in favor of that? Otherwise, I'd say the answer is a definite no.
Hey, Cassie?
I will agree to what Adam and Heath said. I think that they elaborated very well with that, and I don't think there should be any more said about that.
Okay, and Len?
Absolutely not.
Okay, we have another question from in the house.
There's a gentleman waiting back here.
Yeah,
And just trying to keep in order, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Still friends.
My question is, and was directed to Representative Turcotte before I arrived. In the Dobbs decision, June of 2022, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned what had been a constitutional right for half this country's population, requiring states to take up the issue of who gets what rights in what part of the country. We now have politicians and lawyers standing in the delivery room while medical experts ponder what to do and when, and at times not getting it right, and women die. In 2023, you attempted to be one of those people standing in the delivery room when you voted in support of House Bill 591, a bill prohibiting abortions after detection of a fetal heartbeat. Given that the Pew Research survey concludes, as of this evening, 69% of Granite Staters believe abortion should be legal in all or most cases, what is your justification for placing yourself between a patient and her doctor?
Okay, we'll start with Kurt.
Well, I can't help myself. I don't know what your thunder is. Okay, so my answer to you is,
Well, my question was directed to Mr. Turcotte.
Well, we're letting everyone weigh in on every
my answer
question.
to you is the doctor has two patients, the mother and the child. That's well known. It's a human being. It's his patient just as much as the mother is. So no, I'm not coming between the mother and the child. I mean, the mother and the doctor. I'm protecting the child.
Okay, Adam? Yeah.
I would never put myself in that situation. I would vote against that. I firmly believe it's a medical thing for a woman and her doctor to be involved with. I think it's gross to treat it as anything other than a medical procedure.
Okay, thank you. Heath?
I'll agree with Adam. Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, if you're talking about saying you cannot have an abortion after a heartbeat's detected, I would not vote in favor of that bill. I would vote against the bill. But I also wanted to say briefly, we seem to be talking about Roe v. Wade like somehow this was an incredibly fantastic situation and the Supreme Court never got it wrong. It was overturned by Dobbs, and I think that was a good decision. Just like Brown versus the Board of Education overturned Plessy versus Ferguson. Those were two bad decisions that were overturned. The Supreme Court's not infallible.
Bessie?
I have to agree with Adam. I think that, again, it should be determined between the doctor and the patient. And thank you.
Len?
This one I can answer in a minute. Yes, I did vote for that. That's correct. As Mike mentioned, the Dobbs decision sent the abortion issue back to the states. It's no longer Roe v. Wade. So at 13 to 15 weeks, that bill was known as the heartbeat bill. So I'm going to ask everybody here, when a person dies, what determines death? No breathing and a lack of a heartbeat. So shouldn't that maybe apply on the front side? When a person, the audience needs to, so at 13 to 15 weeks, if there's a heartbeat there, yes, I would agree with that, and that's why I voted for that. Now, we are.
That's time, Len.
That's time?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. All right, legislators deal with a lot of different issues. Oh, Kimberly, I'm sorry. Let me get to that in a minute.
So I definitely have a personal connection to this. My daughter, who I love very much, had a second pregnancy and went to the doctors, and the heartbeat was great, and then returned a few weeks later, and the heartbeat had stopped. And she did have to have I guess you'd call it a legal abortion in terms of the procedure. There are too many cases for us that the heartbeat doesn't necessarily determine the health of the baby. there's too many complications. It was determined that the development of the kidneys hadn't happened, and so that is why there was a heartbeat, and then it was weak, and then it was non-existent. But walking around, because there had been a heartbeat with a not viable fetus, is just not something we want to do. We have medical procedures that can take care of that. I also want to clarify on the 39-week question.
That's time.
Oh.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
As I was starting to say, the legislators deal with a lot of different issues. I think people have, made clear their positions on the issues of the last few questions. It'd be nice to explore some other topics as well. Is there anybody online waiting, Connor?
There is.
Let's have one.
Alexis Eaton.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. I want to switch gears a little bit, and I have a question about the Strafford County Nursing Home. So for those of you that don't know, currently the people living in our nursing home are really suffering. 42 people have to share one bathtub, and people have a choice between having an air conditioner or being able to open their windows to get fresh air, not to mention that the entire place is full of asbestos. So I want to know why Republicans like you, Len Turcotte, are refusing to compromise to get this place to a livable state when people are actively suffering. So if you candidates could please tell me what steps you're going to take to get our elders the living space that they need, or if you're actively working against it, then please explain why. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with Adam.
I think as we age, we all will, hopefully. I think it's important that we go into our golden years with pride and dignity. And I would support the Riverside elderly home, nursing home. I would support that. So I want to see it there. I want to see our senior citizens be taken care of. I want everybody to have a humane ending and a livable place to be able to enjoy those final years. I eventually will be one of them, just like everybody else in here, and I may need that space too. So I am not against that. I'm very familiar with the project. Unfortunately, I don't know why we can't get it through, but I hope we do in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Heath?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I support the Riverside Rest Home and the new project. I mean, we've had two different designs for about $170 million. We're looking at creating 235 beds. And the thing is that without any context, that's a lot of money. And this is what a lot of the Republicans have been talking about. The thing is that Holyoke, Massachusetts, they're also building a nursing home right now, 234 beds, all the same inpatient services and similar design and layout. And it's $383 million, or $483 million, $313 million more than our project. Monetarily, I can't find a reason why Republicans are opposed to it. I mean, we had Lori Shibinette, the former director of Health and Human Services, come and provide revenue projections. And we had Representative Turcotte say, I don't believe that. So, I mean, again, we're in a situation where we don't have consistency or agreement as to what the basic facts are.
Time's up. Keith, thank you. Mike?
Yeah, I voted against that bond issue because it would be the most expensive nursing home in New Hampshire ever. And the main reason was because of what the commissioners told us. Their purpose of that nursing home, the design, was to compete with private nursing homes. So the people that could afford to go to a private nursing home would instead choose to go to the county home. The county nursing home is there for one reason: to take care of people who don't have enough money to pay for a nursing home themselves. It's not the business of the county to go into competition with private nursing homes. That's simply not the job of the government. So if they make a more reasonable approach that's not trying to compete with private nursing homes, I'll gladly support it. I think we need a new nursing home.
Hey, Cassie.
I have supported the proposal of the new nursing home. I have always supported it, taking care of my grandmother. I know what it's like to be a caregiver, and even just needing a few, like over the weekend, just a break, and having professionals help you is extremely helpful. I have walked through the nursing home. I've seen the staff, I've seen the residents. The residents are so amazing. We had one woman who said, "When are you going to build me my new nursing home?" And all of them were super sweet. All the rooms were decorated for what they wanted. The only thing is they had to choose between, like she said, a window or an AC. I think we can do better for our constituents, and I always will support a new nursing home. Thank you.
Thank you, Len.
Thank you. Excellent question. I'm glad somebody brought that up rather than abortion. The Republicans on the county delegation, because it required bonding for this project, were able to stop it. We hear constantly about the increases of property tax increases. That first project was estimated at $180 million. That was less any of the, they wanted to also add in some, the underground heating. They wanted to add in all kinds of solar panels and stuff. It was going to bring it to over $200 million. When you take 215 units and divide that number, that's $900,000 per unit to build that home. How many of you live in a $900,000 house, never mind a unit in a nursing home? Downtown Boston Hospital could be built at a square footage price less than this project they were proposing that we ended up calling the Taj Mahal. It's not that we don't want any kind of a new facility. We went up and looked at the Carroll County facility. That facility could have been replicated for the same number of bed units for a third of the price. The estimate we got afterwards was about 65 million. So it's not a situation of, I just got to finish this one. It's not a situation of whether or not we want to get a new nursing home. It's that we got to be fiscally responsible and not increase everybody's property taxes.
Thank you. Kimberly.
Yeah, so I also toured the Strafford County Nursing Home, and I will tell you for a fact that nursing home has not changed since I tap danced there for the elderly, and my daughters tap dance there for the elderly. Look, it's an ethical and moral responsibility to take care of our elders. They have built this county, they have built this state, they are the workers of our community. I don't know what the history is in terms of deliberating the cost of this. It sounds like we really need to figure out a collaborative way to put together a plan that gives the decency and respect to our elder community. And I just see no reason for us to have the same exact place. It's been a long time since I put on tap shoes. Let me tell, well, actually, that's not true, but it's been a bit. And it really is exactly the same. In one shower, 42 people, come on. There's no dorm like that. There's nothing like that that I know of. So we need to get together and accept the moral challenge to fix that.
Thank you, Kurt.
So it so happens that it was in the position to be very influential in this project when we would have killed it totally, except that we reached a compromise and approved $6 million for them to start doing groundwork on the project. I don't know of a Republican that opposes the new nursing home, not one. The challenge we have is what Glenn, that's Len with a G in front of it, was talking about, right? We had proposals given to the commissioners that could have provided a 235-bed facility for half the cost, updated from where they were when we started 4 years ago. Right? Half the cost of the 170-odd million that they're talking about now. And well, we can't go any further than that. That's the problem. Is you're right, we can't reach an agreement because we say, look, we can do this for $1, and they say, oh no, we got to do at least twice that.
Time's up.
So you pay.
Okay, did I skip you, Heath?
No, I just wanted to make a comment about the Carroll County home, which the commissioners did say I just
Get a minute.
This may come up again. Okay. All right, do we have anybody who hasn't asked a question yet? Yep.
haven't done this for a long time, so press. Okay, got it. Okay, my name is Gail Mitchell. I'm from Barrington, New Hampshire. And I'm going to read this because it's going to be faster. Okay. Okay, my name is Gail Mitchell. I'm from Barrington, New Hampshire. My question is on defunding public schools. I'm not in favor of taking monies away from public schools that accept all. Children with autism that need one-on-one, immigrants that don't speak English, a very bright student that wants to take college courses in school. Public schools accept all. They need more money, not less money. We're talking about school vouchers for homeschoolers in public schools that are not accredited like public schools. They have some accreditation, but a parent is not always the best person to know about their children, about progressing to another grade or whatever. So my question to you all, what do you think about school vouchers for religious schools, private schools, homeschoolers, taking monies away from the public schools?
Okay, Heath, you're up first.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the question. I mean, when we're talking about education funding, we've seen these EFAs go millions of dollars over budget. It's something where we have no guardrails, as you said. We have an unlimited amount of schools that could be chosen from, meaning, I mean, when we're talking about this, it's a situation where we have a potential of somebody paying for multiple different teachers, multiple different schools, multiple different facilities, multiple different maintenance staffs, multiple different everything. It's multiplied. And when we look at the base costs and why we go with a public school, it's because we can centralize those costs and reduce the total impact. I mean, as is, we can't compete with a number of other school districts in the area because we haven't been able to maintain proper funding. I mean, Barrington and Strafford pay $20,000 and $10,000 less for a starting teacher salary than what the state average is. So, all right, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Mike?
Yeah, I'm in favor of these. I think for one basic reason is that it promotes competition, and competition makes everybody improve their product, whether it's schools or anything else. And there's also a bit of a misconception that they're somehow taking money away. The money falls to the student. If the student leaves, then there's less money going to the school because the student's no longer there. So we can't keep claiming that every time we add a student, it costs extra money, but when we take students away, it doesn't save any money. So I think this is a good idea. It promotes competition. It'll make our public schools better.
Cassie?
I went to public school. I went right here to Barrington. I went to Dover High School. I believe in public school and I believe in our educators. I also have, this issue has come around so many times, and I think that the voucher system needs to have more regulations and needs to be looked at more closely than it is right now. I think that what's happening is not the intention of the people that created the voucher system. I think we need to grossly do an overhaul and figure out what is going on, why are things happening, why are we losing money, things like that.
Thank you. Len?
Thank you. EFAs, I do support the EFAs. Is it perfect? No, it's still in its infancy. One of the issues that everybody has to realize is the average cost of a K through a 12 student in New Hampshire is over $22,000 a year now. The EFAs take the state portion and give basically $5,000 to each student. So you take a student who normally would be costing $22,000, the state's only putting $5,000. Now, it has to be a public school student who comes out, but that school still gets a lot of that 22K for up to, I think it currently is 2 more years. The issue that we have with our school system is the number of administrators has gone up over the last 20 years hugely, whilst student enrollment in our state goes down. So
that's time. All right, Kimberly.
I might have to pull a Len Turcotte on this one, but I'm not going to. Yikes, what a situation. number one, we have an education funding crisis in this state. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. We know this, we see it every day. To take tax dollars and to ship them out of our public system is something we just cannot do. Currently, it is up to $45 million. It was predicted to be $3.3 million a year. We are losing that amount of money to private enterprise, essentially. And let me look at it, tell you this. For as long as education has existed, there has been the corporations are trying to get the money because it's a giant pot of money, right? It started with textbooks, then it was school buses, then it was the food service. And what's happening now is not are we giving our private tax dollars to these corporations and nonprofits, religious schools, but now we are also sending it out with the voucher program. We need guardrails on it. 45 million is absolutely ridiculous. We know that 800,000 went to Amazon and $1 million to parochial schools. So that's all we know about the money.
Okay, Kurt.
So I'm in favor of the EFAs, and I'm in favor of pretty much any type of school choice. And the reason I am has to do with both what Mike was talking about, and that is that it's, as far as I understand it, every place this goes on, the public schools get better. And the second thing is that it costs. The public school funding in our state has never gone down on a per student cost basis ever, in my lifetime at least. Right? It has increased, it has doubled, it has tripled. And yet, 1965 was the highest SAT scores ever. They have been down year after year after year. When I graduated from high school, the United States was in the top 2 or 3 state countries in the world in literacy. The last time I actually looked, we were 36th. 36th. Yet education funding goes up and up and up and up. It has to stop.
Wait, Adam?
I think most of us know that EFAs or vouchers are a grift. Republicans have been grifting us for several years now, and this is just another opportunity. I believe in strong public schools. I believe that our cornerstone is right here. We have an elementary school, we have a middle school, we have choice for high school. We should not be subsidizing rich people's kids to go to private school. We should not be sending money to religious organizations or schools. We should be putting pride right here in our community, paying our teachers what they deserve. We should be putting money into our kids. You know, it's just the cost of doing business, right? Because everything gets more expensive as time moves on. That's just the natural inflation. It's never going to be cheaper. This is just something we have to put our money into, and we need to get rid of the voucher system. EFAs are a cancer.
Thank you. Okay, I believe we have an online question from Jenna.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me all right?
It's kind of muffled there, Jenna. So
okay, I'll be a little closer. Okay, this question is for Len Turcotte, but also for everyone. Representative Turcotte, you talked about your union membership and serving on a negotiating team for your union, and yet you have voted in favor of right-to-work legislation, which is widely considered a union-busting legislation. States with right-to-work legislation have an average lower wage of 7.5%. I'd like to know why you voted in favor of right-to-work legislation, and for other candidates, I would like to know what you will do to try to increase the wages of our workers who are often leaving the state because they cannot get a living wage.
Thanks, Jenna. Okay, we'll start with Len.
Perfect. This is another one of those issues that I would like to talk for probably like 20 minutes on. What I couldn't understand who you were, but if you could, if you want to send me an email after this, I will be happy to send you my floor speech on the right to work. It'll give you a little insight as to why. right to work right now, I don't know how many people know, but the Janus decision versus the AFS CME is probably about 4, 5, 6 years ago now, has made right to work for all public sector employees throughout the United States. I'll try to be as quick as I can as to why I support right to work. I've been a union member by choice for 40 years now, but I also support the idea of that a union member should not be forced into it. If a union is operating well and providing good value to their members, then those members will want to be part of that union. I've been paying.
Len. Sorry, I'd love to give you 20 minutes, but we just can't do it. Okay, Cassie, you can be next.
Thank you for your question. I come from a family of union members. My grandfather was one, and I will always support unions. I think that they protect our workers, protect their rights, whether or not they decide to join it in case, God forbid, something happens. It's there to protect the workers. And that is always most important when it comes to our workforce that is coming up behind me and my generation. We need protection in the workforce, whether, God forbid, anything happens.
Thank you. Mike.
Yeah, first, I just want to make sure people understand one thing. If you look up my voting record on this, you'll say I voted against the right to work bill. I did. I was asked by leadership to do that so we could have a reconsideration vote if it came up. I'm in favor of right to work. I think it's a matter of personal choice. Someone wants to join a union, they should be able to. They shouldn't be forced to. And I think the fact that the union membership in this country has plummeted over the last 40 years shows that unions aren't delivering the product that workers want.
Heath.
Thank you. I'm the son of a union member. My mom, she's a union member and in the AFT, and I've been endorsed by 6 unions. It's something where I really want to listen to a lot of the union members and make sure that their voices are heard, because right now we've seen record high profits from a number of these corporations, and workers are the ones getting screwed over. And so making sure that we can provide certain protections is really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam?
I believe strong unions are important for us. I think we read the news all the time. We see AT&T, Microsoft, a lot of big companies laying people off. Right to work, it just means you don't need to be in a union to go to work. You can just be a scab and cross those lines. I believe in picketing. I believe in striking. I think Sean Fain is a fantastic representative. I'm endorsed by the Teamsters, and I think unions are valid. I think they should be very strong for us, the people, because when it comes to corporations versus the people, we lose without strong representation. So the bigger the representation, the better it is for everybody. Better wages, better healthcare, better everything. Unions belong here. I would be against right to work.
Thank you. Kurt?
So I voted for right to work now several times, and I would continue to do so for the reasons you've already heard, really. I worked at the Navy Yard 34 years. I think 28 of those, I was a union member. My first 6 years, I wasn't. What's the problem with that? That's right to work.
Kimberly.
So one thing about unions is, number one, as an employee who has a union, like schools, right? Teachers have unions. Other employees also benefit from the union. So in education, you can opt out of the union. However, you always have that legal support. So being a part of a union is more than just protection about workers' rights and healthcare and all of the good things that go with being a union. It brings your colleagues with you as you go. Unions are extremely important in education. Prior to having a strong union presence in this state, the incomes for teachers were extremely low, around $15,000 a year, up to about $18,000 a year. Unions have helped teachers make a livable wage, to be able to feel secure in their job. You're dealing with people on a daily basis. And when you're in an industry like that, police, firefighters, all of the great unions we have out there. They protect our rights as a public servant. So I'm a strong, strong supporter of unions. I am also endorsed by 3 unions.
Okay, do we have a question from somebody who hasn't asked one? Okay, come on up.
My name's Lisa, and I live in Barrington. I was just curious where each of you stand with regard to sanctuary cities, and, you know, if a big bus pulled up here in Barrington, would you support it? Are you against it? What are your feelings?
Thank you. Start with Cassie.
I think that issue is a very difficult decision. I think that we need to protect everybody's rights, especially, you know, there's a lot of people that want to come to America for many different reasons, whether that's because they're fleeing a hostile environment, whether that's work, whether that's their family here. I think that we need to give them the best opportunity they can here. I don't think there's going to be probably buses coming here, but I think that we can allow them at least to be part of this community the best way we can, supporting them, making sure that they become a working part of this community and all communities across the U.S.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, first let me state, I'm got nothing against legal immigration. I'm a first-generation American. And we're talking about people who are here illegally. So sanctuary cities means we're going to protect people who are breaking the law, and I don't believe in that. I think that there's a way to come into the country legally, and if people want to come here for whether it's refugee status or whatever, they should go through the proper methodology and get here. A good friend of mine went through that. It took a while to do it, but he persevered. And he got his green card, and that's what should be done. It's a slap in the face to everybody who plays by the rules to just allow anybody to come in, and then they say, we're going to give them a sanctuary city. Bill down in Massachusetts was $1 billion a year to take care of illegal immigrants. That's $1 billion a year.
Okay, Heath?
Thank you. I mean, I think this is a local control issue. So, I mean, as we've heard from people like Cassie, where we've talked about the economic impacts that some of these immigrants will have, and there are economic benefits, and it's kind of the question of what is good for what city and how that plays out. Thank you.
Hey, Adam?
60 years ago or so, we decided that we were going to have illegal immigration and legal immigration. Now, I immigrated my wife here in 2006. We started that process in 2005. She didn't get her citizenship until 2011. Immigrants are people. People are just like me, you, everybody around you, your neighbor. If a bus pulled up today and immigrants piled off, I would do anything I could to help them make their transition. We are a country of immigrants. The hostility that we have towards immigrants from a certain sector of our country is gross, it's obscene, and it's made to divide. I believe that immigrants have a place in this country, and we should do everything we could to get them in here, get them to pay taxes just like we do, get them integrated into our communities. These are not people that are murderers, rapists, or any of the other harsh language we've heard. There are people like you and I that are looking for some kind of assistance and a better life. No different than my grandparents, your grandparents, and everybody else's. This is a place for all.
Thank you, Kurt.
I praise God I live in one of the richest countries in the world. But there's not enough money in the United States to support all the people that want to come here. We cannot allow our borders to be wide open. We cannot allow those who violate the law to have the rights of citizens. We cannot do that because there's no end to it. There's no limit. So if we're going to have another 11 million people in our country right now came here illegally, that's a lot of people that we're supporting. Yeah, will they eventually become benefit to us? Maybe. But in the interim, we got Eric Adams in New York, we got mayors of Chicago and all these other major cities saying, we can't do this. And some of them are not very nice people, to say the least.
Okay, time's up, Kurt. Kimberly?
So it's clear we need to do something about our borders, right? We do have a large influx of people coming in, both legally and illegally. But the question was, what would we do if a bus pulled up and let out a bunch of people who were arriving here as a sanctuary city? And I agree with Adam on that. They are human beings. They are people. They are here, and we need to care for them. We need to provide them viable housing. We need to provide them with good work. And we need to take care of them like we would take care of any other people. There was no scenario as to why these people showed up on the bus and came. But there might be a journey there that's worth knowing. We are a country of immigrants. That is 100% true. It doesn't matter if you came here in 1600 or came here 10 years ago, right? And we've always been priding ourselves on that. So we need to continue that tradition.
Thank you, Len.
Thank you. Another issue I wish we had a lot more time to talk about. I serve as chairman of the Municipal and County Government Committee, and last year about this time I was invited down to the border to actually spend 3 days down there with the people who work on the illegal immigration problem that's coming on, talk about eye-opening. Drug cartels, human trafficking, drugs, the quantity of drugs that are being coming across in fentanyl. I almost thought Adam was going to go down a road that I liked, and that was the legal versus illegal. There's a difference. Somebody else mentioned, what if it was happening that buses are being unloaded? It is happening in New Hampshire. It happens every day up in Tilton, New Hampshire. The one question that I always like to ask people who say they want to bring as many of these people in as you can, and I've had tons of emails on this, and I always ask the same question: how many are you willing to house in your own house and feed? How many families are you willing to house in your home? To date, not one person has said, I'm willing to do it. I always get the same response: I don't have room.
Okay, time's up, Len. Thank you. All right, we have time for two.
I thought we were ending at 8 o'clock. I have someplace to be. Is it 8:30?
No, it was supposed to be 8. I didn't know if anybody had time to hang a few extra minutes.
Hope we could wrap up with the final statements now.
Can we do one more question?
Okay, but
And
gotta get going.
answer it quickly, okay? You guys want to argue, or who gets to be up there?
One first.
Okay.
Hi, Jane Vashon. I live in Strafford, and I want to thank you so much for hosting this forum and for all the representatives. In these times, it is so wonderful to see people in the same room talking together. And as a constituent, I really appreciate it. My question, I'll keep it quick. Our maple industry is at risk. Our winter sports are at risk. We've had an unprecedented number of 90-degree days that we all sweated through. Do you acknowledge that climate change is real, and how are you helping our state become more resilient in the face of these changes?
Okay, thank you. We'll start with Heath.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I mean, climate change is definitely real. We're seeing the effects of it every single day. It's something where with the hurricanes in North Carolina and how devastating those were. I mean, we have 100-year storms happening, it seems, every year. And I think that what we need to do is start focusing on other things like alternative energy sources, making sure that we can expand. I know, as Representative Harrington said, he serves on the offshore wind committee. And I mean, it's something where right now we are the only state that's not part of the New England Offshore Wind Alliance, if I'm not mistaken, that's the name. But it is something where we can look at alternatives to things like fossil fuels. Thank you.
Hey, Adam.
Climate change is certainly real. I think we've been very familiarized with it, with all the hurricanes that we've had just this season. We just had a couple devastating ones go across Florida and then up. I would support anything that would help put us in a better position to guard ourselves against climate change. We need to run and not walk on this issue. It is going to affect us very, very quickly. Now, luckily we live in New Hampshire, so we're a little bit cushioned, but the South, the Southwest, all those places are going to be devastated in the coming years. I don't think that there's any way around it. If we don't get our carbon under control, we are going to be in very big trouble. Thank you.
Okay, Kurt?
So yeah, the climate's warming. I agree. What should we do about it is a very difficult question. Most of the things that have been proposed that I know of don't work or can't work. Well, for example, wind power doesn't work. You ought to go out. I went to the biggest wind farm in the world, I think it is, out in Desert Palm, California. They got 2 wind farms, the one that's dead and the one that's blowing, right? The dead one's still there because nobody can afford to take it down. The fact is that fossil fuels will be our future, and they'll be our future for at least another 4 or 5 decades, because we cannot manufacture enough and build enough in order to supplant the energy that they provide for us. But that doesn't mean there aren't things we can do. There are, and we should be doing that. So when I was down in Biloxi, Mississippi, right, they raise all their houses that are near the beach up, I don't know, 10 feet, right? It works, right? It's a lot cheaper than paying 3 times as much and not having the energy that you need.
Okay, time, Kurt. Kimberly?
Yeah, so this is a hot topic of mine. I studied climate change back in the 1980s. As I said before, it's not on our doorstep anymore. It's in our kitchen making a sandwich. There are huge implications for our state for this. Number one, we have a beautiful state. I believe it was mentioned the maple syrup industry, right? We see our gorgeous maples out there right now. We are dependent on recreation and tourism in the state to the tune of about $7.5 billion, and that's billion with a B dollars. The impacts of climate change on that is incredible. Fluctuating temperature and rain events lead to erosion, leading to nutrient pollution, leading to green algae blooms and hypoxia, which affects our fish in our waters. Infrastructure as flooding destroys bridges and culverts and all kinds of things. Health implications as the most vulnerable populations are impacted by the heat and the oxygen levels leading to asthma. We have a problem with agriculture, not just maple syrup, but our erratic frosting and loss of buds and different things for our crops and our orchards.
Okay,
and our winter sports, pond hockey, gone. So we need to fix it.
Okay,
now.
Len?
Yes, absolutely. Climates are changing. They've been changing for millions of years. Select weather events such as hurricanes and tornadoes are certainly not indications of a quickly changing climate. Years ago, I was in the state of Wyoming up at elevation 6,000 feet, and we were in an area that was covered with seashells. So what does that tell you? Sometime in the past, we had seawater up at 6,000 feet. I was up in Nova Scotia not long ago. The rocks 30 feet above the elevation of the current sea level were rounded. They had been worn away by the rocks. What is it, 11,000 years ago where we're sitting right here? Guess what? We were sitting underneath. If we would have been here, we would have been sitting under an iceberg, not an iceberg, a glacier. So yeah, climate's change. It's what happens. And the alarmists that I've been hearing for 50 years is getting old.
Hey, Cassie? Come on, we got to squeeze a lot in the last couple minutes here. Folks? Philippe? Cassie, go ahead.
Yeah, I have to agree with Kimberly. It's not at our doorstep. It's in our house. It's here. We have to make the change and be the change for future generations. You know, a lot of families were devastated down in Florida. A lot of people without their homes, without electricity. And I think that we are seeing it here now. Elderly people with asthma, emphysema, during the summer, they weren't even allowed outdoors to mow their lawns because of high temperatures and weather. Doctors reported saying, please do not go outside. We see it, it's here. We need to do something about it. We need to be the change. Thank you.
Okay, Mike, and you'll have the first closing, so you can get out if you have to.
Yeah, of course, the climate's changed, as Len said, it's been changing forever. And if you look back, we had the medieval warming period where Leif Erikson and his gang went to Greenland, and then it was followed by what was called the Little Ice Age, where they got frozen out. This is where you have Charles Dickens and people skating on the Thames. So most of our meteorological records start from a period of abnormally cold. Is there some man-made influence on the climate? More than likely, but it's overly hyped. Remember, Al Gore told us 18 years ago that if we didn't drastically reduce greenhouse gas emissions in 10 years, the world was going to end. Well, it's been 18 years later, the world's not ended, and greenhouse gas emissions have gone up, not down. Also, if they hype the hurricanes and stuff, that's because we have this 24-hour press. In actuality, the worst decade for the most severe hurricanes was in the 1940s, and no one was talking about climate change back then. The other question you have to ask is, everything costs money. How much are you willing to pay to fight climate change?
Okay, that's time for that one.
All right.
But you can segue into a 2-minute closing.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you people for being here. I have a feeling I probably got maybe 1 or 2 votes in the audience, if that. But anyways, that's okay. I go to Concord to serve, and like I said, I try to go after special interest groups. There's certain times you get very frustrated. There's sometimes you actually can get something done. I think I was mostly responsible for having the Berlin biomass plant shut down. People say, oh, that's horrible. Well, look at the facts. That plant signed a contract, and they violated the contract because they wouldn't pay back the money they owed in accordance with the terms of the contract. They went to the legislature twice, and they were bailed out. The third time, the bill passed again. It passed my committee 18-2. I was one of 2 people voting against it. It passed the Senate and the House. I convinced the governor to veto the bill with the promise that I would guarantee upholding that veto. And it came to the floor of the House. I was the only one who spoke against to uphold the veto, and the veto was upheld. The company's since gone bankrupt because they kept losing money. Now, they owe the ratepayers, Eversource ratepayers, $160 million, which we're never going to get back. But if they had been bailed out again, they would owe, at this time, $190 million, and then next year it would be 200 and something million. So we stopped bleeding. So sometimes you can be effective if you work really hard and get something done. And that's what I did in that case. So I go back to Concord with the idea again of fighting special interest groups and realizing, as I say, that more government's not the solution to every problem. Sometimes it's a cause. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mike. Heath.
Thank you. I thank you all so much for coming. I'll wait for Mike. You know, it's been an honor for me to serve these past 2 years as your state representative. It's something where I want to say it's truly been an honor. I have been working on things like education funding, broadband accessibility, and election law related issues, dealing with the things like Mike had said, we're looking at special interest groups and trying to close some of the loopholes that we've seen. But it's all a lot of work, and it's making sure that we can come together and compromise when we need to. And I've been one of the most bipartisan members of my committee. I co-sponsored a bill that unfortunately failed in the Senate to provide more durable ballot boxes. So right now they're currently cardboard boxes. We would have upgraded those to more durable containers so that there would be water, fire protection, and make it harder to break into. These are things that we can all agree on, but it's how we approach the conversation and making sure that we can do so in a respectable manner. And that's really what I've been focused on in Concord. Thank you.
Thank you, Heath. Cassie.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and thank you for all your questions, including someone that didn't get to have their question answered. But I want to thank everybody that has voted for me in the past and has put me in office for the last 3 terms. I've enjoyed my time on the Children and Family Law Committee. I've always, my main focus has always been protecting our children, protecting the future generation and their rights, and making sure that everybody's rights are protected, making sure that our elderly, that they get the dignity and respect that they deserve, making sure that our community is the best that it can be. As a former Girl Scout, that was one of the main things that was enthrived in us, was making sure we can do best for our community and give back to our community. And I want to do that for Barrington and Strafford. Thank you.
Kurt.
So yeah, I want to thank you all too for coming, and I really enjoy the opportunity to do this. I want to say it was an honor for me, and I'm hoping it will be again, to serve in the House for 8 years. I worked on things that we didn't even get to talk about, like government transparency, constitutional rights to privacy, those types of things, which were very important to me, and we made significant progress, but there's a lot more to be done. We do need to find ways to talk to each other and come to agreement, right? And so I'm actually proud of the fact that I voted for this $1 million to allow this nursing home project to go forward. I'm disappointed in the sense that the worst case scenario that I envisioned at the time was exactly what's come forward, and that has been there's no movement on one side of the aisle. And so it was that far apart that we always were, right? But George McGarris will tell you I'm a great guy and you should endorse, because he promised me he would endorse me for that vote. And with that, I will just say have a great night. And if you want to stick around and chat about any of these things, I'm perfectly willing. I think I'm willing. I have to ask my better half over there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Adam.
I just want to leave everybody thinking, over the last 8 years, we've been underneath Republican control at the state. And not much has happened. We've done a lot of culture war. We've done a lot of voting down things. And I think Kurt's right. Yeah, there's a side of the aisle that just really doesn't want to get anything done. And I think tonight we've heard all the answers, right? Pretty stark difference between the Democrat and Republican candidates up here. If you want us to go to every vote, if you want us to work hard for the people, if you want us to fix a lot of the things that have gone wrong in the last 8 years and beyond, I hope that you'll vote myself, Kimberly McGlinchey, Cassandra Levesque, and Heath Howard for this year. And hopefully going into the future, we will work very hard for Strafford County, Barrington, Strafford. I hope that you'll send us and let us do the work for you. Thank you for coming out, and I appreciate you guys listening to this tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Len?
Thank you. Thanks also for everybody who has come out. I want to talk about one thing that a couple people mentioned, and that's coming together to get things done. Most people don't realize that about 80% of what we do in the House is either voted up or down on what they call the consent calendar. That's what we agree on. They're either so bad, the bills are either so bad or they're so good that we just get rid of 50, 60 bills at a time in a bipartisan fashion. What you guys hear about is the 20% out there that the media finds sexy to talk about, that gets each side going like this against each other. So there's a lot more agreement out there than a lot of you think. I wish we would have had more time than a 1-minute discussion. I really would like to talk about some of these issues in details. We talked about the unions. I can tell you with 8 years of national experience for a 16,500 member union, I can tell you I have been a union member for 40 years. I support unions, but I also support right to work. It doesn't sound normal because most people think you have to be a Democrat to be in a union. Not the case. We have 16,500 pilots at American Airlines, and most of them are very conservative. Somebody had asked, I offered a right to work speech, my floor speech that I've given 3 times on the House floor. I'd be happy to send that to anybody. We also, on my Facebook website, I talked about going to the border. One of the gals that we went down with, there was 3 of us from the House, we went down. We put a 1-hour video together, and that's on my website. It'd be about a year back, not my website, on the Facebook page. I think I hit all of them.
Good.
Thank you.
It was 5 seconds to spare. Good work. Kimberly.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you all for being here tonight. And thank you to the panelists, right? And although we may not agree on everything, or some things, or none things, if that's such a thing, none things. But what I do think we do agree on is we are all here to give our very best energy to, keep New Hampshire, make New Hampshire an excellent place to live, work, play, and raise a family. And I threw my hat into this ring because I do believe in New Hampshire, and we are a great state. And I want nothing but the best for this state. I do. I am extremely proud of our heritage. I come from a long line of teachers, educators, lawyers, and all kinds of different people, and all of them have given their very best to this state. And I want to continue that tradition. I started talking about that I had a problem, that New Hampshire was moving in the wrong direction, and I want to reiterate that. We are moving in the wrong direction on school funding, climate change, elderly housing, homeless, and many other things that we need to really step it up, because if we don't, we may find ourselves not in a position we want to be in. And so again, thank you so very much for having me. I look forward to seeing you all at the polls.
Thank you. And thanks to all the candidates for participating and for your willingness to devote countless hours and miles to the office that you either hold or seek. And thanks to the audience. This wouldn't have been much of a program without you, and the folks at home as well. And I'm impressed that people came all the way from Strafford to be here. We appreciate that. And thanks to my collaborators, Connor and John, for helping to make this event happen. I couldn't have kept the time, which would have made Len happy, but John did a great job of that. Thanks again. Have a good night. Make sure you show up to vote. And if you have questions, you get a week and a half to contact these people in person to get anything cleared up that wasn't cleared up tonight. Thanks a lot.